welcome back to the channel, or nice to meet you if you're new here. Today I'm going to give you what I think to be is the 4 best grenade veteran builds for raw power. Let's get straight into the first build. Now starting with the first build, it has an answer for all situations, it plays heavily into team strength overall, and is extremely easy to execute. There will be quite a few similarities between the builds. In the top half of the talent tree, it's in the lower half where each build fleshes out the playstyle and strengths of each, but with that out of the way. In the first section of the talent tree, I think Out for Blood is the single best node. However, as a package of 3 points, I do believe the middle section to be superior. Close order drills for up to 33% damage reduction. Note that the veteran's damage reduction is heavily linked to their toughness. In other words, the veteran lives and dies by toughness. I value this over one motion, especially with a bolt pistol secondary. It already has a fast enough equip speed for me. Confirmed Kill provides a bunch of sustainability, both with its 10% base regen on elite or specialist kill and 20% healing over 10 seconds. Do note Confirmed Kill stacks with itself on the healing over time with multiple kills, leading to some crazy amounts of toughness regeneration, especially with how much AoE damage Grenade Veteran provides. You're bound to kill elites and specials, and Confirmed Kill is going to start ramping. +1 stamina combining with 15 base toughness is exactly what the doctor ordered for veteran. Again, one motion, Out for Blood, and 5% movement speed is really good, but I do think the middle section to be better for Grenade Veteran. Shredders are the best grenade, combining with lethal proximity and Grenade Tinkerer. They have a 14 meter radius to apply bleed, as well as providing a bunch of crowd control with the explosion damage. You can also combine with rending or damage blessings on your melee weapon, both of which improve both portions of shredder grenades. As mentioned before, Grenade Tinkerer stacks with lethal proximity, and both are a must for any proper Grenade Veteran build. Get back in the fight is just insanely more useful than Catch a Breath. There's often going to be enemies within 8 meters when you want it to work. It just isn't active or impactful enough compared to Get Back in the Fight, which will save your life many times over. Survivalist is the best aura hands down, especially on a weapon like the bolt pistol, which typically takes 1 to 3 shots to kill its usual targets. You then regenerate a bullet back if it's a special or elite, leading to some very nice ammo economy, let alone the ammo it generates for your team as well. Field Improvision, replenishing grenades with ammo crates for the team, as well as corruption healing and toughness replenishment. Ammo and med crates become extremely powerful force multipliers that can definitely help you get out of some nasty situations. Twin Blast is a great 1-point investment for any grenade build. Grenade Veteran is not contingent on Twin Blast. However, much like when Confirmed Kill pops off, Twin Blast, when it pops off, it pops the fuck off. Demo Stockpile is just a go-to talent node in general, let alone on Grenade Veteran. No ifs, no buts, you always take it. I do really like Grenadier. I see Grenade Veteran in some ways as a combo deck from TCGs if you're familiar with old Malygos Miracle Rogue from old Hearthstone. Consider Grenadier as a preparation plus eviscerate combo. That is how much value a single extra grenade can provide for Grenade Veteran, especially with the fact we can replenish that kill combo between grenade pickups on the map that provide 4, 1 every 60 seconds from Demo Stockpile, a shit ton from Demo Team, and multiple from ammo crates during a run. Voice of Command with Duty and Honor, it provides crazy amounts of durability from Pineapple Toughness, crazy amounts of crowd control with its stagger, and just with Tactical Awareness alone, 3 special kills reduces Voice of Command's cooldown by 18 seconds. Duty and Honor lasts for 15 seconds, and Voice of Command has a 30-second cooldown, meaning kill 3 specials during Duty and Honor, and you have permanent Pineapple Toughness. Born Leader stacking with Confirmed Kill, Voice of Command, and Target Down all serve as a great way to serve as a medic for your team. Like I mentioned above, Tactical Awareness, you got no other choice and it's extremely powerful. Make sure you're prioritizing those special kills. Iron Will combining with Close Order Drills is 83% damage reduction on paper. Do note these stack multiplicatively, so there is diminishing returns in that regard. Now, even with that said, Tactical Awareness, Iron Will, and Demo Team is basically the holy trifecta of any veteran build. Demolition Team, again, is pretty much a must take in every veteran build, let alone a grenade veteran build. This will replenish and generate a crap ton of grenades during your run. I take Bring It Down for a straight 20% damage to Ogrons and Monstrosities. This ramps all damage forms against them. I also take Competitive Urge, especially in High Havoc. This is going to be active for a lot of the run because it matters not if if you're in coherency or not, there is just a 2.5% chance whenever an ally kills an enemy that you benefit from all these. 20% base damage, 20% melee impact, and 20% suppression is really good. It very much plays into the all-rounder playstyle, boosting that damage with bring it down, boosting the damage with focus target, more crowd control, combining with the shredders and voice of command. It's just a really good node for Grenade Veteran and synergize as well. I do take focus target, especially in high Havoc. The amount of impact this has for a team is really powerful. The way I see it is focus target boosts the overall team, whereas weapon specialist improves the amount of carry potential you can do as a solo person. But again, assuming you have 4 good teammates, I do think focus target is typically going to benefit the team more. I don't bother with the 8-stack augment because I'm typically going to be pinging more than once every 10 seconds. At max stacks of 5, this is still up to an additional 20% damage, which is still really good. Again, going back to how we serve as a medic for the team, whenever you kill a focused target, it can replenish up to 25% toughness and 25% stamina for anyone in coherency. This does then get boosted by Born Leader. Redirect fire, most of our damage does come from explosion and bleed. Especially on Grenade Veteran, you'll typically find 50 to 75% of your damage does come from grenades, just depending on how much you luck out with demo team, twin blast, etc. And again, as long as the first target you ping had 5 stacks, all your subsequent stacks, even if it's only a single stack of focused target, will still refresh the full 5 stacks of redirect fire. This more or less serves as the psycho coherency aura, except it works against everything. Now, going on to the second focus target build, this build is contingent on another veteran being on your team with survivalist. If you don't have another veteran on your team with survivalist, I don't recommend going this, I'll be honest, just because survivalist is just that powerful and you really don't need to go fire team. It's just a way that you can kind of min-max the auras and buffs and your potential in a team, and I think the points that you spare from going survivalist, if you already have it on your team, are worth it. Now, the obvious first change is we go fire team. Much like redirect fire previously, this is just a constant 5%. It doesn't seem like a lot, but over the course of a run, it does add up with the amount of bleed that we do. Now, just quickly here, personal preference, I do like the extra crit chance, but if you don't want to go grenadier and crit chance, you can go field improv and redirect fire. That combining with fire team is really nice. What's better between field improv and redirect fire? Again, that plays into team strength, whereas this plays into personal strength. And again, if you're going this build, you're probably paying for personal strength because you're not going survivalist. Again, you're just trying to min-max the potential you can bring on a damage profile with this setup. Now, with the extra points that we can serve, we go over to the right hand side of the veteran talent tree. Basically, all your melee nodes exist, and the points that we conserved previously are used to basically ramp that melee aspect of the build. Do remember that bleed cannot crit, so this is purely used to enhance our melee potential when our grenades are out or we have low grenade stockpile. Grenade downtime, basically. Reciprocity provides up to 25% crit chance. Again, with some weapons like the dueling sword or knife, you're going to get the most value, but it is just objectively always a good node. Desperado, much like above, the melee finesse bonus is very important, especially with the 2 weapons it's best designed to work with, the dueling sword and combat knife. Now, this plus 25 base toughness node is really nice. Depending on the setup of Curios that you go, you can have over 200 toughness or 200 plus toughness in a Havoc 40 game. With the way I personally run my Curios, when I run this setup, I have 194 toughness in a Havoc 40 game, and I really don't think I'm giving up much damage, to be quite frank. If you take a stamina Curio, again depending on the weapon that you choose and yada yada yada, you'll still have somewhere around the 160 toughness mark in a Havoc 40, and some of the highest toughness values that you'll have on a veteran in any difficulty. Trench fighters, constant 10% melee attack speed. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it truly really is. You'll definitely notice it in your run. And again, Grenade Veteran is more or less a melee focused build. Now on to build 3 and 4. These are the weapon specialist variants. Much like the first build, it's all the same at the top and middle. It changes a little bit in the middle. We take off Grenadier and the crit chance because I do find more value in Twin Blast and Field Improvision. We take the Holy Trifecta Perfector plus Born Leader in the middle section, and then we dump the rest of the points, which will be 3 in this case, into Weapon Specialist, always prepared and on your toes. Again, this is an extra 15% melee attack speed combining with Trench Fighter, the extra dodge distance, again with mobility weapons like the DS or knife, definitely noticeable. 3 melee stacks converts to 99% crit chance on the bolt pistol. Weapon Specialist does definitely work really nice with Grenade Veteran. I do think it is harder to execute if you want to like make use of like constant uptime, but the amount of raw damage that this can output through your melee weapon is definitely something to consider. It ultimately comes down to Weapon Specialist puts more onus of carry on you, whereas Focus Target improves team overall strength. They're going to feel and play differently, but I do think they are both very powerful for how Grenade Veteran plays and wants to support his team. Always Prepared combining with Survivalist, very good feeling playstyle, and as the name suggests, you're always prepared for when you need to take out that sniper or tox bomber, flamer, etc. On Your Toes is one of the strongest talent nodes on Veteran, especially with depending on your Curios setup, on top of Voice of Command, on top of confirmed kill stacking. This is just a crazy talent, and Weapon Specialists and Always Prepared by themselves are fantastic, but On Your Toes is just, I don't know, it's just fucking crazy. Now with the final Weapon Specialist variant, it is quite literally exactly the same as the previous one. Again, this build is contingent on another Veteran that has Survivalist on your team, but those 2 points that we spare basically allow us to take the crit chance and Grenadier. Now that's all the builds talked about. What I'm going to do, I'm going to make a separate proper weapon showcase for Grenade Veteran where I'll discuss all the good choices, kind of make like a tier list and what blessings. It's not going to be an actual tier list, I'm just going to choose a few weapons from each class that I recommend. What I'm going to do for this video is give you the 5 best weapons that I would recommend in no particular order, and then just take your pick from the lot. Now starting with my favorite recently is the Assault Chain Axe. You can take defenses as a dump stat as well. It kind of just depends if you're using block efficiency in your Curios. If you are, keep defenses and you can use a bunch of your push attacks. Otherwise take mobility. I find Flak and Carapace to be the best perks to just help it deal with horde situations. It already does a great amount of damage to bosses and unyielding. I prefer Thunderous just because of the debuff of brittleness that helps and applies for your team. Now you can change Thunderous for Opportunist. There is more synergy between Opportunist and grenades. Your first grenade will stagger and the follow-up bleed, and all subsequent grenades and bleed will benefit from the 25% rending as long as your Assault Chain Axe is in hand. Very powerful, I like it. Thunderous is just better for bosses and the one-shot potential on crushes. As well as again, Thunderous helps your team. Opportunist is more self-centered and helps you. You can replace Bloodletter for power blessings, but again, I wouldn't recommend it because that's more or less what lethal proximity and grenades are for, as well as the heavy attacks on the Chain Axe. I find the Rev 16 stacks of bleed to be much more impactful. Just go around again, light or heavy attacking with the Rev, applying those stacks, using your grenades to crowd control everything. Very nice way to control elites and specials. Now going on to what I use the most and what I believe to be the best weapon for Grenade Veteran is the Combat Knife. I take mobility as a dump stat, Carapace and Flak as the perks. We take Uncanny Strike because it synergizes with grenade bleed stacks. A couple of grenades with a fully stacked Uncanny Strike will deal with an armored patrol and horde. I then combine that with Flesh Terror if I'm taking the Weapon Specialist build or a build that uses Reciprocity and Desperado. If I'm using my Focus Target build, the original one, I replace Flesh Terror with Lacerate. I use the light attacks on the torso to apply bleed stacks for horde control, and then I'm using my heavy and push attacks with Uncanny Strike into the big things. I'm sure everyone guessed it, we have the Mark IV Dueling Sword. You can take Flak in replacement of Unyielding, but again, I leave that for the bolt pistol and grenades and really focus this into boss killing and crusher killing. I take Uncanny Strike for the exact same reason on the Combat Knife, and I take Thrust, combining with especially Focus Target or any of the crit variants. I can either generate a ton of base damage or a really powerful crit. You're more or less one or two shotting practically everything. Much like the Chain Axe, I've been very much enjoying the power sword. They serve kind of similar roles, except the chain axe is definitely better for bosses and basically the bigger elites, but the power sword makes up for it in the brute force potential in terms of cleave and horde management. Again, you can replace one of the perks for unyielding. This is just what I prefer. Blessings, power cycler, it's kind of the whole point we take the power sword for the 3 charged attacks. I combine that with slaughter because that ramps our bleed damage. You'll typically find you don't need the brittleness blessing on the power sword. It just does so much raw damage combining with the grenades that you just kind of mow everything down. Last and definitely not least is the standard Mark 1 Sapper Shovel. The Shovel gang know who the real soldiers are. Now the shovel has access to Uncanny Strike, which is amazing. Exactly like the dueling sword and combat knife, this is how you deal with armored patrols. Chuck some grenades, Uncanny Strike, everything's gonna bleed out. Where it gets really interesting though is thrust unfortunately doesn't apply. That extra strength doesn't apply to bleed or grenades for whatever reason. It's purely for the dueling swords attacks, and unlike the combat knife, which doesn't have access to good strength or damage blessings, it's definitely more geared for the bleed route. The Sapper Shovel has access to Decimator, and that 50% power converts to 50% damage for the explosion and bleed damage of your grenades. I also really like the Mark 1 because the special attack, you can stagger literally anything but bosses. Mutants coming at you, poke it in the face, you'll stop it in its tracks. Crusher overheading you, poke it in the face, you're gonna stagger it. Mauler about to overhead you, poke it in the head, you're gonna stagger it. It has a crap ton of horde control with its heavies, and you'll be surprised at how much damage the Sapper Shovel light attacks do, especially with the combination of Uncanny Strike and all the damage ramp that we have in the build. Do not sleep on the Sapper Shovel for Grenade Veteran. It is low-key kind of built for it. It's high-key kind of built for it. I ain't gonna lie, this shit's crazy. In future, I will make a demo Krieger build, little snippet of what's to come, but seriously, the shovel is really good with Grenade Veteran. Now going on to the Curios, I have 2 different setups depending on the weapon. If it's the dueling sword or knife, I'll take an extra +3 stamina Curio, but if I'm running the shovel, power sword or chain axe, I find they have more than enough base stamina. I'll run a triple toughness Curio setup. For the perks, again, there is multiplicative stacking of damage reduction, which leads to diminishing returns. I take a single damage resistant gunner to top off the damage that we're taking from Reapers and Drake and Scab Gunners, because let's be honest, they're more or less what's going to be killing you most of the time, or chipping you to the points where that leads to you going down or dying. I combine that with 3 stamina regeneration perks and 3 combat ability regeneration perks. Voice of Command is probably the best ability in the game in my opinion. Anything that we can do to improve that uptime, even if it seems minuscule, play for it, it is worth it. Veteran, much like I was mentioning before, lives and dies by toughness. It's much like that for stamina. They have a 1-second stamina regeneration delay, and you can definitely feel that. So it's about managing that stamina economy with the stamina regeneration, combining with things like target down if you're taking that build. It allows you to stay in the fight, get your blocks off, get your teammates up if they go down. I don't really think there's much else you should replace it for. Now on the second toughness Curio, I changed the gunner resistance for a single toughness perk. This can be replaced for block efficiency depending on your build and weapon, and if that's what you want to run. On the last Curio, this is interchange between toughness or stamina depending on the weapon, much like I mentioned before. Shovel, power sword and chain axe, I don't really find I need +3 stamina, but you can definitely take it. I definitely think it is needed on the dueling sword and combat knife. Otherwise, just changes to 3 toughness Curios for, again, the power sword, shovel and chain axe. The perks remain the same as the Curio before. I prefer the toughness, it can be changed for a block efficiency. And last but definitely not least is the bolt pistol. Mobility dump stat with focus target, reload dump stat with weapon specialist. I always take flak and unyielding. There's other ways and better ways with Grenade Veteran to deal with carapace than a bolt pistol. Lethal proximity is a must. It goes nowhere on any Grenade Veteran build, and I find puncture to have the best results. again with twin blast, the amount of grenades that we're throwing in general, getting 6 or 12 stacks. If you're running a lacerate knife or a puncture bolt pistol, those 4 extra stacks take you to the maximum of 16 bleed stacks, and then you more or less maintain it with those. Now do note you can actually change puncture for execution, but the problem is, again, I find Grenade Veteran to definitely be more melee focused. Execution only works when the bolt pistol is out. However, much like Opportunist, your first grenade will stagger, the follow-up bleed, and the follow-up grenade's end bleed will be benefiting from 20% damage. Not to be slept on, it makes some breakpoints worse for some enemies and it makes them better. So I find it makes it better for shooters, but it makes it worse for reapers and bosses. I personally do think puncture is better. If puncture is S tier, then execution is like an A tier, put it that way. And there you go guys, that is my meta build and guide for Grenade Veteran. I wish you all success in your games as well as in life. God bless, catch you in the next video. 07.